Welcome back, Old World Explorers. Ashley from Freya's here, joining me again with a file as we peek into the remains of the old world and the post-cataclysm existence we find ourselves in today. So thanks for joining me again, Ashley.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
What do you got for
So,
us?
so just some other pictures of our melted realm that we find ourselves in. But yeah, like this, you can see it's just a complete wasteland, and this one goes down into the ground. It just seems pretty obvious to me at this point. The more you look into it, you don't even have to look for structures. You can just start looking at the landscape, and you start seeing. And this is actually inside. I've got, again, these. I don't have these in order. I wish I had them in order, but this is from a castle, Blarney Castle, and
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
Ireland.
yeah, and
Hmm.
but there's all these tunnels, these cave tunnels that connect to the castle, but I think they're just part of the structure that's melted now.
Yeah, yeah.
Then we
Interesting.
got this here. This is up Liskey or something. I don't know how to say it, but
So look at the
um,
stairs, eh? See how the stairs have
yeah,
just sort of melted right in there?
yes. Like, who
So
would build steps like this? Look at
how
this
would they
here.
explain this to us, right? How would conventional geology and history try to explain this to us, right?
Yeah, they
All the
would say
carve.
yeah, they would say, first off, they would say this is older, very, very old. The more damage it is, they just say it's older. That's how they explain it. So they would probably say this bit down here is carved, and this is carved, but this is weathered because it was so long ago. It just erosion wore this down, and then they
Mm-hmm.
built this structure on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
But you can
Mm-hmm.
see the variety of brick damage. Like over here, those bricks are look more deformed than these
Yeah,
bricks from the variety of the way that the heat moved through the structures. And back here too, look, you can see archways inside the rock.
yeah. Give us a little
So
zoom. Give us a little zoom if you don't
yep,
mind.
yep,
Yeah.
yeah. This isn't the best quality image, but you can see it
Okay.
here. You can see part of one here, maybe
Yeah.
here, and look at
Yeah.
this rock here,
Yeah.
just melted like ice cream. And look, we got some red bricks over here that are still intact.
Yeah. It's funny once you gain the eyes to see, you just see the world in such a different light, right? Than
Yeah,
our trained version of the world that they give us.
yeah, and I mean, it all really happened in the 1800s. That's whenever they, started. Like the first national park was in the like 1850s, I believe. It was in the mid 1800s, but that was Yellowstone. They started like, the World Heritage and all these UNESCO. They started kind of just getting the foundation set of this is the translation that people are going to see it as. I mean, all of it. And then they had their media, their newspaper, their radio and everything, and their education system. And it's just
Hmm.
really genius how they constructed this a complete fabrication. Like our whole reality is just total fabrication. It's an illusion.
And all
Um,
going back to that same time period, right? That I mean, a lot of
mhm.
people are getting into this whole reset concept because a lot of
Yep.
people suggest we're living through one right now.
Yep.
So it's interesting how this is all coming to light and coming to the forefront of our consciousness at this period of time. You know.
Yeah. It's like the apocalypse, the unveiling.
Hmm. Oh,
But
look at
this is,
this. Eh?
I think, what?
Yeah, I like the you get that slit window there, and then you have the sort of what looks like tight brickwork, blockwork right next to it to the right.
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah, right there. You can see like the horizontal lines, and then all of a sudden becomes the big stone, balloon rock, whatever you want to call it.
Yep. Where they melted
Really
together.
no logic whatsoever to the building
Mm-mm.
process if that were the case. Like there's no.
No, makes zero sense. And like up here, you can see some detailing. I think a lot of these really old ruins like this, even the ones we just looked at, they were probably had beautiful decorations on them. They look just like the ones that are still intact. The interior was probably just, breathtaking, but it
Hmm.
all just got melted away or they looted it. A lot of these
Yeah.
places are crime scenes. They go in and they loot whatever they can. But yeah, see how this one isn't even symmetrical? It's
Hmm.
asymmetrical. They would have never built that way. And these here, and
Hmm.
they literally call these arrow slits. That's
Yeah.
what they say. These are arrow slits because, of course, they tell us we were warring all the time. I had a big discussion with my husband last night about that, and he thinks that the war and stuff is just as natural as the air we breathe. But I disagree. I mean, if we look at
Yeah.
the last 150 years, all of those world wars happened from the top down.
Hmm.
We wouldn't have been in any of those wars. It's their bullshit
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, it's the inheritor's narrative, right? And it's a way
Mhm.
to way to make us think that that's the way we are and that's the way we've always been.
Yep,
I think.
exactly.
Yeah. And this type of
Mhm.
evidence is helping to bring that to the forefront. To at least maybe it's helping people scratch their heads and say, well, maybe this doesn't make sense from a building perspective. So maybe something did happen here. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I've got a bunch of these. This is that same Blarney. And I think the past few years.
This is Blarney. Sorry,
Oh
I
yeah,
just.
that was Blarney.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, but look at that. I mean, this is, if this top part wasn't here, geology would say this is sedimentary layers,
Uh-huh.
or they would say that tectonic plates shifted and this got pushed up, and
But
but it's clearly part of this structure.
you
And the
can see
picture,
that vertical wall right in the middle there, like that. You can
yep,
see how it's
right
walled.
here.
Yeah, right
Hmm.
there, 100%.
Yep, and
Yeah.
the one, and you can see here where it's this thing would have been so much bigger and went
Hmm.
down. See, look here, there's a little entryway that goes into the ground, and that's where they have the tunnels that I showed earlier, the slides,
Yeah.
that they say there's all these like secret tunnels, and those tunnels are always haunted, and dungeons and torture zones and stuff,
Yeah.
which is, and again, just part of the narrative to.
They like to make it spooky, right? It's almost like
Mhm.
be scared of this. Don't look too close at this. Be scared of it.
Yeah,
It's
and
strange.
I think too they create these really outrageous stories around it, because then that distracts us. Then our focus is put on this. Wow, that's bizarre. That's crazy. And you're trying to make sense of that, and so you're not really digesting what you're seeing.
Hmm. Hmm.
This is also at Blarney.
Hmm.
Look at
The,
that.
the construction process didn't even make sense here. You can
Mhm.
see how some of it's like stone wall and some of it's melted stone wall, and yeah,
Yep. Yeah. How
very
do you
interesting.
explain that? I mean,
Yeah, they're totally relying on that veil to remain over our perception. Really,
hmm,
you
yep.
know. And you're starting to see things like them shutting a lot of these places down, like they're not open for the public and things like that. It makes me wonder. It's like they know, maybe there are elements in our society that know that this awareness is increasing, so they're
Hmm.
cutting off access to a lot of these places. You
Yeah,
know.
I think they would have destroyed all of these if they could, but they're just too massive. I mean, these things, and I wonder too if the old world, they knew that there was some kind of cataclysm heading their way, because just like that, the city hall in Philadelphia that you covered, where the walls are like 23 feet thick, and there's some that have walls as thick as 30 feet, like they were
Hmm.
building these, indestructible fortresses for some
Hmm.
reason.
Hmm.
So I think maybe they knew that there was some kind of major cataclysm that was going to take place. This is in Transylvania. This is the Dracula's castle.
Spooky again. We have that spooky
Mm.
narrative.
Yeah.
Look at
That way
that,
you
hey?
don't notice. Yeah, that way you don't notice this massive brick lava that's pouring out and hardened, connected to the structure.
I had a funny comment on a video. I shared something similar to this, and one of the commenters tried to rationalize it as like it was concrete pour that had gone wrong.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, well, I
Yeah.
guess, but
Yeah. But then down here they got some rocks and
yeah,
plugged them into the concrete.
yeah, yeah, it's fair. That's interesting. Yeah, yeah. That's like blistering. That's whenever I see that look on
Mhm.
these buildings, like this blistering was creeping up and it stopped for some reason, like a
Yeah.
flash just stopped. Yeah,
Yeah, and it clearly happened from the bottom up. It was from the inside out and from the bottom up. This
yeah.
this heat, the way it moved through the structure. And notice too, this tree here.
Hmm.
Like, there's tons of pictures. I found a bunch of pictures of this, but I couldn't use them because right here the tree was in bloom, and you could not see. It's like a perfect
Hmm.
shape and location to block this bit
That's
right here.
interesting. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. You see that a lot in postcards and things like that too. I've found that anyway, obscuring vision. You
Yep.
know,
Yeah,
so
that definitely is a common theme whenever
like,
you're looking into this stuff.
yeah.
And this is in Cappadocia, which
Mm.
they typically look like the gnome buildings. You've done videos on Cappadocia, but
At
um,
Turkey, yeah, yeah,
mhm. But this one's just interesting because this one is still intact. So again, I
yeah.
think those like ice cream looking pointy blobs that they say they're carved into, I think whenever they were intact before the cataclysm, they looked beautiful, just like all the other old world structures that we see everywhere. So this one, there's still remnants of that. You can still see some of the decoration and some of the
Uh,
forms, but it's just completely smoked.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, we're seeing the remains of a disaster. We're not seeing them how they were built at the time.
Hmm.
So again, it's altered our perception. We see what, like you're showing right now. It's like, oh, they built these out of slate stone or whatever, flagstone, whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
and they built them like this. And at the time, like, it's still amazing construction, even in the state it's in right now. But we're
Yeah,
saying with this research, is like, no, they were not built like this. This is the result of some serious um, a cataclysm and devastation that occurred. And they were once beautiful structures, like many of the structures that we still do have today, right?
exactly. Yeah. I mean, like this, they put little pebbles in here and little flat. I mean, yeah, it's
Yeah,
just insane. And again, this they'll say is really, really, really old because then you're like, oh, that's why it looks all messed up because it's just so damn old. And people back
yeah,
then just built this way. And
yeah,
they'll say too that they always say that they used like stone that was um like natural to the area because you
yeah,
find this stone everywhere because it's part of the building that's you know
yeah.
there's probably they're exploding and melting and just this intense event. And so you find the remnants all over the place, and they'll say that those rocks were natural, and they put it, they just reverse it. They reverse everything.
They do. They reverse it so that the cataclysm happened to the area, and that's why the area has
Mhm.
the stones that look like they're in the building instead of the
Exactly.
reverse, right? Yeah.
Hmm.
This is crazy. Look at this one. Wow.
Yeah. Look at that.
Hmm.
And why would they ever carve? And you know what I mean? Like they'll
Hmm.
say that this was carved, but why would you carve way up here and in the middle here?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you just carve down here where it was more accessible? And look, I guess they started these and didn't finish them,
Yeah. Right.
like here too.
Yeah. Very interesting. Totally melty too. You can see
Yeah.
how it's just drippy.
Yep.
You
Like
know.
the facade, whatever different materials they had
Hmm.
were running down the side.
Yeah. Timeline is something I really want to explore about,
Hmm.
when this happened, how it happened, how is big too, because we
Hmm.
don't have explanations. We have guesses. Sometimes people are always asking me too. I need an explanation. If you're going to propose this, you need to tell me what happened. It's like, I don't know. I can't
Yeah.
tell you, but I'm just showing you the visuals, to show you that maybe it's not exactly what they've been telling us.
Yeah,
You
that
know?
it appears that something did happen. I did a video recently about the carbon 14 event of seven. They say it's 774, 775. I don't know if you watched that video, um,
No.
but have you heard about that carbon 14
Not too
anomaly?
much. No, you can explain a little bit if you don't mind.
Yeah, so basically, there was a team of Japanese scientists that discovered in 2012. They discovered the a cedar tree had a ring that was uh, would have had a major spike of carbon 14, and it would have been like 20 times higher than today. And like this kind of, and they don't know where, and they found it since. It's been found all over the realm. So there's evidence
Mhm.
of this major event that increased the gases in the atmosphere to unexplainable um, amounts. And so
Interesting.
they think it was like a solar flare or, it's something from the heavens, basically,
Hmm.
which it could have been, or it could have been from this or this and the heavens
Hmm.
somehow.
Sure.
But regardless, the amount of energy, and they say that this event would have happened today, it would be completely catastrophic. But since it happened in a time when there wasn't any technology, it probably wasn't that bad. Exactly. And they say that the power that this event would have generated would have powered the entire world for 300,000 years. Like it's just an unimaginable amount of
Interesting.
intense power that took place. And I think maybe that's where we get the fossils and all these like bodies, like
Hmm.
all these they have all their different narratives of where all these bodies come from. We have all these like pockets of bodies,
Hmm.
and then all the structures that are melted. So if there would have been technology then, which I think there was, if this was the event that knocked this out, the it basically would have brought in, it would have amplified the electricity and
Hmm. Like a
the
power surge, like a
yeah,
power surge
like
in the
a power
circuit.
surge. Yep,
Yeah,
yep,
yeah, a
like that.
massive
So,
power surge in the circuit. That makes sense.
mhm. So I
Yeah.
think that might have been when it was. Now I don't know if their timeline is if it was 774 or 775, and I have a theory that I don't know. Did you watch Alpha Talks? Are you familiar with his work?
No, no.
Well, I would recommend him to anybody. He does really good work, but he's made a connection between the Statue of Liberty and that could have been at the end of the millennial reign. That the Statue of Liberty is a symbol of Satan breaking free of his chains, because the Statue of Liberty, has like shackled ankles
Yeah,
that are busted and all that kind of stuff.
interesting.
And Yeah, so he thinks that maybe that's why that date is so important, the 1776. And so once I
Mm,
started looking into the carbon 14, I was like, maybe that actually happened in 776 instead of 774, 775, because that's just a guess on their part anyway. And that the millennial reign took place in between, because that would have been 1,000 years, which is, it says, in the Bible, it'll be 1,000 years. And he
yeah.
also theorizes that the if that already happened, if the millennial reign and Armageddon and all that already happened, that would put us in Satan's little season, in the short season of Satan. And
Yeah.
it says in the Bible that takes a quarter of the time. So that would be 250 years of 1,000 years. So if you add that to 1776, that would mean
Here we are.
2026 would be
Would you look at
250
that,
years.
hey?
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, it's just a theory, obviously, and
Yep.
there's a lot of ins and outs to try to, you know,
Yeah. No,
figure out with all
I've
that
seen a
riddle.
lot
But
of the millennial reign and the little season, and I think there's definitely some interesting aspects to that. We'll put the link in the description so people can check that out themselves. Um,
yeah, that'd be
yeah, the
good.
timelines are very interesting to hypothesize on for sure. And there's something
Yeah.
suspicious about the 1776 and the founding of the Illuminati and the
Mhm.
founding of the United States, the Declaration of Independence, all happening at the same time. You know,
Yeah, and this the Western world definitely would be the the kingdom, that the top of the kingdom where Satan would reside and his minions would reside. I mean, we can see that this is like where all the disgusting, degenerate awfulness is pouring out of, is coming from the Western world.
yeah. And I know Sir Francis Bacon called it the New Atlantis. The
Hmm.
Americas was the New Atlantis. So there's a lot of interesting connections there. And I've touched on a few in a few of my videos how maybe the Declaration of Independence was like a last um, um, a vestige of the old world, just showing
Hmm.
as long as you hold true to this, you can regain your freedom, but you are entering the little season. Maybe
Yeah,
there's something to that too. I don't know.
yeah,
um
could be.
yeah, it's interesting to hypothesize on, and none of us really know for sure, but we're digging into it, and that's it's fun to do the digging too, right? It's a
Hmm.
lot
Yeah,
funner
and
than
it's
Netflix.
yeah, oh, for sure. And then,
Right.
I mean, and you come across some stuff, and you'll have, like, since I started doing this research, I've discovered all these other channels that are also, getting into, including yours. And like all these epiphanies that I came to on my own from my research, I'm hearing other people also say. And it's just, yeah, it's just really interesting that it's the conclusions that we make individually, we're all kind of collectively making, because we're going through this process. And the detective work is resulting in the same kind of conclusions, so we're not crazy.
And that's
Basically.
yeah, that's why I find it important to connect and try to connect with as many people with different areas of interest in this field as possible to try and make those links. You know, that last one you had up, I was going
Mhm.
to try to get in there. The one with the octagons, the one before it.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
I see so much of that in the old world buildings, especially everywhere really, but in the Americas especially, the undersides of ceilings with the octagonal
Hmm.
patterns, the rosettes often in the middle of the octagonal patterns.
Hmm.
So I think a big part of the old energetic system had to, this type of detail work. You can imagine how this once may have looked.
Yeah.
Certainly was not built to look like this,
Mm-mm.
right?
No, yeah. Obviously, yeah. I mean, and look at the outside of it here; it's just totally melted. You can tell it's melted. Yeah, God, it would have been gorgeous. Yeah, they. Why would they ever come in here and carve into this rock, the underside, just carve this little section and like buff it out here?
Yeah, right.
Like,
I never really got it finished, right?
yeah,
The front never really got finished, and you
yeah,
really have to not want to look.
gorgeous. But yeah, so I think all those buildings would have looked, badass, like these, like we see everywhere. And look at this wall that's all blasted
Yeah.
up. And I think this rock was probably part of the original wall.
Let's
So
talk a little bit about sea levels,
okay.
because so much of these are right on the edge of what we now call the sea level. It must have been a completely different landscape pre-cataclysm,
Hmm.
and they have found so many things underwater, right? So we know
Hmm.
that's very possible that these. I mean, I don't even know. I hypothesize like what were the seas even what were the size of the bodies of water here in this realm pre-cataclysm, right? I think we're
Yeah.
living in a completely altered
Hmm.
state from what it was before, so it's very difficult for us to envision what it may have looked like with the landscape. We talked about before we started recording, like the canals and the potential that we're really in a terraformed um, realm that was fried and made to look like what we now call natural, right?
Hmm.
Or has become what we call natural, but it's actually just post-cataclysm. So it makes you wonder sea levels and things like that, and how the waterways work. Are the seas just the result of some sort of cataclysm, the cracking of the heavens, the firmament, whatever you want to call it? All things to consider, really.
Yeah, and I mean the fact that we find structures on the bottom of the ocean tells me that the ocean wasn't there. They didn't build structures underwater,
That's right. Yeah.
And yeah, I do think it's basically like the whole realm was fabricated, like
Mm-hmm.
the more and more you look, you just start discovering that it's just we're living amongst the old world ruins, that they created this realm as we
Mm-hmm.
see it, and we don't even know what the ground level would look like,
Mm-hmm.
prior to them even building, you know
Yeah.
and some people in this, I've heard, like whenever I first got into this, I was watching a bunch of like True Earth channels and stuff, and I would just be in the chats like screaming like haha, like it's all melted, and trying to explain to people. That's why I started making videos,
Mm-hmm.
because it was like there was no one for me to talk to. I didn't realize there was like this whole little niche community. Luckily I found them. But yeah, the response would be, well, where did they get all the bricks? And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, I don't know, but there's evidence that this did happen. You know what I mean? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
some people, if they can't get like you mentioned a minute ago, if they can't get the full story, it's just instantly shut down.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
just,
They want the full explanation, or they're going to go back with the one they know. They're
yeah.
just going to fall back on the one that they were taught as children. Look at that one was interesting. Sorry, I keep doing
I
this to
know.
you.
Oh
You get
no,
the
you're fine.
red at the bottom, the red
Yep.
brick at the bottom, right?
Look at this one melted right here. Look.
Yeah, and then to the left of that, you can actually see how it's still red brick.
Yeah.
Perfect right there. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and then the whole structure just sort of
There's that.
goes boom and
Yeah.
turns into something completely different.
Yeah, look at these here are like melted into it. You can see where it's like running down. It was
Mm-hmm.
running down. Also with that carbon 14 thing that I brought up earlier,
Yeah.
they've discovered 6 other ones, but they are much, much smaller. But those kind of events, it's believed that they would have been very short lived. Like they like grow and decay in amount of hours, like a
Mm.
very short amount of time, which also lines up to what we see with this kind of damage, that whatever this was, it happened very quickly, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why a bunch of this like meltage is just caught mid drip.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, look at those blown out.
Yeah. The evidence is overwhelming.
It really is. It's literally everywhere you look.
Yeah.
Everywhere you look. Like even caves like this, like it's got an
Mm-hmm.
archway, and these, it just looks like blistered
Mm-hmm.
melted stone.
So the elaborate attempts of the Royal Society to graft this false history and false existence um, onto where we are now, right? It's starting to become clear for those of us with eyes to see, that
Mm-hmm.
that really want to know, right? And we know that they had their secret societies and their sworn oaths to each other and to whoever else or whatever else, right? The little season,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
there's an allegiance there as well, right? And it's not to truth or to the people, right? So
Oh yeah.
it's not really that much of a stretch when you do the digging. You just have to
Yeah.
wanna
Yeah, and especially the past few years, all that bullshit that we just went through, like these
yeah.
people are total fucking liars, and they're soulless. There's no level of, because I think the everyday person, it's like, oh, how would it, no, nobody would ever do that on that kind of scale, like
Mm-hmm.
that's too big of a horrible act. And it's like these people have no shame,
No. So
no
that's
shame.
what I often tell people. They say, no, you don't, you wouldn't do that because
Yeah.
you have shame and you have a soul. These people have cremated their care, let's say, which is one of their rictuals, right?
Mm,
They're maybe not even people. We might be dealing with something we
yeah.
don't understand, right? They might be manifesting to look like us, and when in fact there's something much more going on behind the scenes, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's a whole different rabbit hole, but
Hmm.
it's all on the table, really, and
Yeah.
especially when you realize that they've wiped that from our reality as well, the possibility of that being possible, if
Hmm.
that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, they could be the what's described as the fallen angels.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I did a video too recently where I was just kind of breaking down old artwork that's like structural artwork. It wasn't, like there's so much artwork from the old world to try to break down. But to me, it looks clear that there was some kind of like almost like a parasitic outsider force that you see that's just these bizarre, like the mouth clutchers, like the gargoyles and the grotesque,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm,
they're like mouth clutchers and stuff, or they're just like, and they just look completely insane and deranged. Like, why would they ever put that on a building? Because
mm-hmm.
it's a message, and they don't want us reading body language or reading facial expressions, and that's why they had us covering our face and shit. They don't want,
Interesting.
yeah. Whenever we were like generations before, that was like and there's another thing too, that people talk about how they think people in the old world might have been telepathic, and maybe they were, but I think we imagine telepathy like some kind of sci-fi movie where you're like sending your thoughts and making this whole big kind of sci-fi connection. But it could just very well be that we can feel each other's energy, and we read body language, subtle movements, facial expressions. All of
Mm-hmm.
that is a type of telepathy because it doesn't require sound and speech. And so these old world structures with all these, like the Atlas architecture and the caratids and all that kind of stuff, and the grotesque and gargoyles, that I think there's messages there, because they don't know why the hell they built those things. They
Yeah,
don't know,
yeah.
And so it's up to us to read the body language that the ancestors left behind in their relics to try to make sense of the story. I mean, I think there's clues there.
Yeah, and when you look at the footage too of like the early 1900s of the people that are fully dressed with top hats, and like I saw recently, I think John Levi had a video recently where they're swimming in the ocean, but they're fully clothed. It's like they don't know where they are. They're totally disoriented. They had all the
Yeah.
awnings covering all the windows in the inherited buildings. It's like they
Hmm.
couldn't handle the sun. So there's an
Yeah.
interesting that reseeding element. I find very interesting as well. Was there a reseeding of the realm? It gets into the orphan trains and the whole
Hmm.
cloning technologies, which Mind Unveiled's gotten into, which is it's
Hmm.
all very interesting stuff. So um, I think there's much more to it. And now we're looking at like you said, like if we get into the little season, was Lucifer and Lucifer's minions released into the realm, and did they reseed the populations? They still
Hmm.
need humanity. Did they manipulate humanity? Did they have we fallen from a higher state of being through
Yes.
that genetic manipulation?
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, I think we probably had senses that we no longer have. We're poisoned and totally,
Mm-hmm.
brainwashed from inception. And
Mm-hmm.
I think our natural state is more like children, where they're enthusiastic, they're excited, they have a sense of wonder and curiosity, but they would have had the wisdom of the elders that were making these structures and stuff. So
Yeah.
that would be like a natural balance, a natural that feels right, that sounds right, and that would have been right. They've got us so fucking lost in the sauce. We
Mm-hmm.
don't know what's up and down.
Mm-hmm. And they
And
need to.
they beat that out of us. They beat those beautiful natural characteristics that we have that make us human. They beat that out of us at childhood, and then
Mm-hmm.
they're pouring all their media bullshit and their Rockefeller education in us, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just totally transforming us from our natural state. So we're completely disconnected, I think, from a lot of the senses that we would have had, like
Yeah.
even the visuals, the sonic, the sounds and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
even if you think of the fact that they have to keep us down, like they have to use all these, they have to do the spraying, and they have to put the additives in our food, and they have to have the 5G towers up, and they have to brainwash us with Hollywood, means that they're scared of our power,
Mm-hmm.
of what we are. It's like they have to keep their foot firmly on our necks, right? Because they know if they let up at all, and then which is happening right now with people like you and I talking about
Mm-hmm.
this and looking at the deception and pondering, even just pondering on it. We don't, like we said, we don't need to know. We just need to talk about it and think about it. We make these
Mm-hmm.
connections by connecting, you
Yeah.
know. So I think it's a desperate attempt to keep us subjugated, right? With
Yeah.
all these different modes of attack, but it's despite all that, we're still breaking free, I think, from that control
Mm-hmm.
system. And it would be great to see something like, oh, look, the people have taken over the Vatican Library, and look at all the old world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think the evidence is out there. It's hoarded. They
Mm-hmm.
hoarded all this, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They're thieves. They are
Give it back
thieves.
to the people. Yeah, give it back to the people,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, I
And
mean, I think with the old world stuff, like I was talking about with the artwork and stuff, like maybe they were the Phoenicians. I think there was some kind of outsider force, and it's almost like they're jealous. They're jealous of us,
absolutely.
and it's like they sabotage this beautiful world that we had. I mean, they could have been the cause. Maybe they weaseled their way up to the top and learned the ins and outs, and schemed a way to cause this complete meltdown and destruction, and
Mhm.
hid away in a safe place while it happened, so that they could come back and they would have all this knowledge from the old world, and they could just lord over us and do what they're doing now. I mean, we don't know, but there's definitely like an evil force, that's running the show. It's like we're living in their nightmare
Yeah,
that
and I
they've
think
constructed for us.
their trick is making us believe that there is no evil force, that it's just all a matter of chance and a matter of coincidence. There is no good, there is no evil. You don't have to pick a side. You can stay arbitrary. You can stay in moral relativism. You can justify anything really with the right amount of logic, and that's where they want us. They don't want us to understand that the powers of dark and the powers of light exist. Because if once you understand that, you've made your choice. It's easy to pick the right side, as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you keep it away from our perception, you never really have to make the choice. Right?
Yep.
That's how I see that, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, they just want us thinking that we're soulless monkey people, on
Yeah.
our spinning water ball, and that it's all just, there's nothing special about it. The same with these buildings and mountains and all that. Like, oh, it's just that we need deep time, and it takes it's just a slow, boring, gradual, transfer of sediment or selective erosion or whatever bullshit reasons they give us. It's just basically they make it all so boring, just like with space. Oh, it's far, far away, and it's just this boring thing, and it's instead of it being what it really is, which is it's this celestial heavenly realm that we're not able to access, that is just bizarre and beautiful and beyond our ability to
They invert
fully
everything.
understand.
It's not vast and empty, right? They
Yeah.
invert everything, right? It's just a vacuum of emptiness is what they're telling us it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I
Yep.
don't think so. I think it's the exact opposite is my guess. Anything they tell me, I just think, okay, exact opposite.
Yeah, literally.
That's where I
I do
start.
that too.
You know?
This one's crazy. You see how it's got this band?
Yeah.
It seems like there are like power bands that we see sometimes, and they're usually really cooked out. There's actually I've done some boots on the ground in my little town square where I live. Haven't shared any of it yet, but there's a few different buildings that have these like bands, and it just looks like black tar, like melted black tar that runs the whole length of the building, like it's melted. And I've seen this in other old world structures that are like melted, where you can see this like band that's all cooked out, like it's some kind of power band or something. Anyway, just want to point that out because you can see it here.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Like part of the tech. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, it's just look at all these, and I just think like how silly the historical narrative is that they've given us with the knights, and the swords and the horseback and it's all crap.
Yeah.
All of that is crap. I don't believe any of that at all.
Me neither.
The roaming hordes and the warring people and the rape and the murder and the pillaging, the Vikings pillaging. It's a false history. We have to get that out of our heads.
Yep.
It's not who we are.
Yeah, because then that becomes the foundation of your identity, and it's totally all wrong. I think a lot of the, like the scepters and the staffs and the crowns and all that, I think those were tech. I think they just like you can put a copper rod in a plant and it'll pull from the ether and the plant will grow bigger and be stronger. I think that's why they were always carrying those staffs and scepters and the fasces and all that kind of stuff. I think that was part of a technology, and even crowns could have been part of a technology. And actually, I've got a presentation that I have the slideshow ready, but I haven't done the narration. It's hard for me to like get away. I have to like go in my bathroom, and I've got 2 kids, this kind of thing. But it's like a whole big setup. But anyway, it's all this from these Jain temples and Buddhist temples and or Hindu temples, I mean, and then the Jain temples. But it looks like a technology. Like they've got this. I would just have to show. Like that's why I'm going to make a video about it. But I think it's clearly like a consciousness technology. And I've heard other people like, I am Kairos.
Oh yeah.
Okay. He was on that Jen and Shapu's channel that I brought up earlier. And like he was talking about how he thinks it could have been that these structures, because they're like perfect, they could have been like a manifested tech, that they somehow could manifest these structures with, some means that we don't fully understand. And I think those like consciousness, what I'm interpreting as like consciousness technology, maybe that was somehow, or I've even thought maybe this crown of this conscious tech like activated more of our brain, so we could use all of our brain, and we were capable of doing these kind of wondrous divine things because all of our neurons were firing appropriately. Like we lose so many, as if you don't use them, you lose them. And they say we only used like what 8% of our brain, something like that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think it could just be stimulating our own natural biology, and that makes us from this viewpoint seem supernatural, superhuman. But it was just us activating our full potential and acting on
Yeah.
it.
Well, I'm thinking of all these old world buildings that I've sort of gone through in my research, and what's missing from them is the ones that are still intact and still didn't get hit hard by the cataclysm. What's missing is what we call human error, where
Mm-hmm.
usually there's a brick that's a little bit out of alignment, or there's like a tile in the floor that was cut funny,
Mm-hmm.
or you see it every day. It doesn't matter how high end the finishing is on a project these days. There's always some an element to show that there was a little bit of error and you had to sort of make do in that
Mm-hmm.
corner to make it fit. There's none of that. All of this is symmetrically perfect. Everything was put together. All the grout lines are perfect. Everything is
Yeah.
perfect. So there's that whatever we're calling human error, maybe that's modern day human error, wasn't a part of that construction process in the old world. Right. So
Yeah.
that's sort of interesting to correlate with what I Am Kairos is
Mm-hmm.
suggesting, I suppose.
Yeah, and it's like everything fit perfectly. Like
Mm-hmm.
typically if you're my dad did floors, and whenever you get to a corner, you have to go around something, you have to cut it to make it fit just right. And it's usually a little, wonky in areas. But yeah, with these old world structures, it's like every piece fits perfectly. They don't have to be cutting down stuff and make it, you know what I mean? Like it's just a perfect fit.
Yeah.
Total perfection. But look at this, you can see where this texture here on this
Yeah.
rock is just
Yeah.
the melted building. You can see part of that those would have been the stones.
Yeah. Coming right out into what we call the cliff nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
It's yeah.
Down here, not here, you can see blocks.
Yeah.
So I think all this was building too. All
For
this up
sure.
here,
Same colors, the same
Mm-hmm.
colors too, right? The gray
Right.
and then the beige or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, same
Yeah.
material.
Yeah. Really makes you wonder what it looked like, eh? What it must have
Yeah.
looked like. Yeah.
Just I think the silhouettes of mountains, if you're just looking at a landscape scene, you just have to, you would basically just reverse what you're seeing, and instead of the mountain silhouette form, you start, plug buildings in there, so you have
Mm-hmm.
this huge mound that looks like a mountain to us now, but it just would have been tons of buildings like
Mm-hmm.
piled on each other like a network, or maybe one
Mm-hmm.
big building. I don't know, but yeah, I can't fully imagine it, obviously.
Yeah.
But
No, I
that's
hear
how
you.
I try to reverse it in my mind, and push it in and pull it up, because as it melted, it would have came down and widened out and slumped down. But if you push it in, they would have been so tall. And I wonder too if that's what caused this the cataclysm, that they got so tall, like a Van der Graaf generator, and it got to a point where it just totally shocked it and it backfired and short circuited from them going too high.
Like the Tower of Babel
Mm-hmm.
story-ish,
Yeah.
sort of. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there could have been, I think a lot of the Bible is basically summing up the story for us, but I think it might be simplified. Like if there were survivors of this cataclysm and they were telling their children about what happened, they were describing the world before them and what happened, it would have to be kind of coded, because you wouldn't, how if we didn't have cell phones now, how would I explain to someone like, oh, it's a telepathy machine and it was just rock and glass and plastic, but you can send, you know what I mean, you have to put it into a way that's understandable, especially for like a young mind that's completely separate from that. So I think the idea of like the Tower of Babel, I think there were probably multiple towers of Babel, and that it's just kind of a simplified version to keep the story alive.
Yeah, and it distorted too. It has been those stories have been distorted over time, but
Mm-hmm.
the grain of truth that's in there, it's still there, which is why they want to totally eliminate the Bible, I suppose, from
Mm-hmm.
all the schools and then our existence and all that. So there has to be something if they're so averse to what's in the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
there has to be something to it, that just
Yeah. I think as far as the Bible goes, there's definitely stuff that resonates with me. Since I was young, I've looked into all tons of different, my mom bought me like a collection of world religions, and I had a little notebook and I would read and just try to make sense of it. But there's stuff in there that just doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't resonate with me. And so I think just like they've corrupted everything else, and that's why they've got Vatican as kind of their seat of control, for Christianity, and they've got London for the banking and then the US for the military, whatever. I don't trust that it's all authentic, you know.
Of
But I
course
think
not.
there is truth, you know, in there, because you, whenever you read it, it resonates with you. Certain things resonate. So yeah, you just have to use your own judgment, you know.
This one's interesting. Um, what we're talking about the church, right? This is obviously what we would call a depiction of the saints or something similar. And so, did they hijack the visuals that were a part of the old world
Mhm.
structures and then graft a different story on top of that, right? Like, what do you make of the halos here? It's
That's
interesting.
yep, that's exactly my thoughts. I think the same thing, and I think this could be referencing maybe that tech, what we would
Hmm.
call tech, or what we
Hmm.
would call magic. Yeah, I think they just hijacked this imagery and gave us a new. This book maybe not have been a biblical book, or if it was, it would have been different. But it had like wisdom that was
Mm,
to you know, fully explain how to live this way and live in harmony and have these quote powers, you know.
yeah.
Um, but
And
yeah, and it,
the
yeah,
cross, not a, yeah, the like energetics, right? The cross
mhm,
having to do with the energetics of the ether, not so much a dead man on the cross,
yeah.
right? Not saying there wasn't a Jesus figure either. You know, they probably distorted all of that as well. Can't say for sure, right?
Yeah, Jesus could have been the one that was trying to, you know, their hero standing up against this evil force that moved in
Mhm.
on the realm, and a lot of those stories. Yeah, I just think they've really, um, yeah, kind of they've
It's
twisted it
muddy
all
waters,
up.
right? Yeah, it's muddy
Yeah,
waters. It's very
hmm
difficult to get into without,
yeah,
insulting people, offending
exactly.
people.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, people really take it personally. You know, if
Mhm.
you, yeah, talking about this kind of stuff, because it's just another foundation of their
Yeah.
identity. You know, their faith is a you know, stronghold on people,
Mm.
and yeah, they really take it personally. But it's, I think it's dangerous to connect yourself, you know, too much to. You must always humble yourself. You know, we because
Mhm.
we do not know.
Yeah, you have to start from that point. And then it's easy because you don't have to anchor yourself to anything. You just say, I don't know for sure. I'm just hypothesizing, right?
Yeah, and like I'm okay with being wrong. You know,
Hmm.
all the stuff I'm talking about now is just theory. I mean, I feel real confident in some of my theories that I have, but I'm
Hmm.
open to, you know, if they're disproven, I'm okay with that too. Like I can, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
okay to be wrong, but the fact that we're, I think, looking into it and talking about it is what's important, because we know that they're lying to us. We know we've been lied to. The past
Hmm.
few years definitely should have shown everyone what they're capable of. I mean, not to include the events, you know, the 2001 event
Yeah.
with the planes, or, you know,
Yeah.
planes, if there were even planes, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's, these
Yeah.
people are, nothing is out of, you know, out of their ability to
We have to know what we're
reverse.
dealing with,
And
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
they
And
are
then
bad, bad, bad people.
yeah, we risk ridicule by diving into these waters. You and I here,
Mhm.
we're definitely risking ridicule. I can think of a lot of people in my life who, if they came across this video, would instantly want to ridicule me for even discussing the topic, right?
Mhm.
I mean, and these days I don't really have time for the closed mind, right?
Yeah.
I'm reaching out to people with open minds who want to explore these things. And by exploring, by definition, we know we're going to get a lot of it wrong, like you were saying, right? But risking ridicule is a key component of coming to new conclusions, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why whenever I was, you know, like I mentioned earlier, I would get on like True Earth. I watched a lot of different people and I would try to bring this up. And it's basically because I wanted people to like look into this and let me know what you think. Like, let's figure this out. Like, this is kind of a big deal, you know,
Yeah.
and which I haven't really, now I just have that whole community that I can really watch and interact with, and try to learn more and all that kind of stuff. So luckily I've discovered that there's a lot more people looking into this, you know, whole area of research. But
Hmm.
now look at
Uh,
that one.
yeah.
Look here, melted brick.
Well, you can see the red. You can see the lines there, like the horizontal lines. Wow,
Yeah,
that's
like
interesting.
this bit here, the column or something. Look
Yeah.
here, it's like styrations, heat
Uh,
striations, but
yeah.
it's like,
Something you would see in caves too. That
mhm,
type of look right there, right?
yeah. And you see the blockiness down here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they'll say that this is like selective erosion, basically, that these sediments were softer, and or they'll say there was used to be a raging river here that
Hmm.
pushed through and finally knocked this open, you know, and
The
this would be
slow
like
decay
selective. Hmm.
time, right? Of time. It's all that they stretched that timeline out to millions of years.
Yep,
That
deep
that
time.
looks crazy. The top looks very well like.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, like this is kind of rounded here.
Hmm.
You can see like little closed apertures. Look, that's like a melting. It's kind of
Yeah,
dipping out of that hole, pouring out of that hole there.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times I'll just look at different, um, like mountain ranges or just different, you know, the look at the topography of the earth, and you just start. You can pick
Hmm.
out these things, once you see them.
You start to see it, right? I mean, I see it too, like in my daily life. I live pretty close to the Rocky Mountains, and be driving down the highway, and you turn your head, and the Rocky Mountains are vast, right? They're huge, but you're looking on the side of the highway, and you're like, "That's a wall."
Wow, yeah,
You
you
know,
should
it's
go.
like that's you know.
Have you ever gone in any? Is there any kind of like little caves or anywhere you could go and like
Hmm.
check it out and see if you could find anything?
Mostly we just have like waterfall hikes and things like that. I don't know of any caves around here actually. There probably are some. You have to drive a good 5, 6, 7 hours before you get it to anything like that. So it's a bit of a commitment to do that kind of thing. But I should do that. I'll do that next summer. Maybe take the kids out to one of those areas and get a bunch of boots on the ground,
Yeah,
something
man,
like
I
that.
really wish I had some mountains or caves or something. There's some caves that are, it's probably like a 2 hour drive away, maybe 3 hour drive away,
Hmm.
that I know of. There might be more close by that I've never heard of. But yeah, I wish there was stuff like this I could go check out in person. Because, I mean, whatever happened here, it's like it just totally melted everything to red dirt. We just have red dirt
Yeah,
everywhere, just
yeah,
rolling hills, that are pastures mostly. And there's just a few select um, little red brick old world buildings like our courthouse, and around
yeah.
it there's some other. And my courthouse, I've got a video I've got so many videos I'm trying to put together, but it's just time. But my courthouse has two other identical courthouses here in Texas. So there's three at least that I know of that are completely identical
Hmm.
courthouses, and they're old
Hmm.
world structures. It's like they were models,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
different models. Anyway, I thought
Yeah.
that was really interesting. But look at all this back here, this
Well, I
like
was gonna
terrace.
say, like, I'm starting to do courthouses by state videos where I'm just gonna show all the courthouses, one after another. And so I just finished Missouri, I think, and I think I found 3 courthouses that were identical there as well, like the same building.
Really?
I had to go back and make sure I wasn't in the same county. I'm like, wait, no, it's a different count, different town. What? 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 It's the same building.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah, I've never heard of. I never knew that was a thing.
yeah.
I didn't
They're
know that.
crazy. The courthouses are amazing. So I'm just going to showcase the visuals for people,
Hmm.
on those. I just something I've been doing lately. I think it's important, especially
Yeah.
when you go state by state, because no matter where you live, especially in the Midwest area in the States, it's like, man, it's everywhere, guys. So your court, start with the courthouse and work your
Hmm.
way around the town square, and
Yep.
yeah, it's so cool. I wish we had that here. I'd be all over it.
Yeah. So you don't really have any old world structures close by you?
No, I have to drive 6, 7 hours before there's anything like that. Yeah.
Jeez.
I think we're covered in mud. I think I told you that last time. It's like we're covered in hundreds of feet of mud, I think, here.
Didn't you say though that somebody on one of your videos you were saying how you knew somebody that had dug that did like oil or something, and they
Yeah.
dug down like 30 feet and they came across a tree like
300 feet.
300, yeah, 300 feet down.
They were drilling. They drilled down 300 feet, and then they drilled through a tree. Yeah.
Crazy. It's crazy. I wish there was somebody that was very knowledgeable about forestry, that could look at some of these sites and be like, oh, that's a so and so tree, and that tree would be roughly this age. Because I think that also can give us a better idea of the timeline.
Yeah.
There's tons of these destroyed structures too, but you'll have like trees growing out that they're just like, twisted into the
Well,
rubble.
yeah. Where I live, 200 years is a really old tree. 200, 250-year-old tree is a
Hmm.
very old tree.
Yeah,
You
that
know.
seems pretty. Yeah, I think that's probably around here as well. It's about
Mm.
200 years. If
I
it's.
know when you get to the coastal regions, they say 800. Some of the cedars on the coast and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
I don't know for sure. That could be also misdated. Who knows, right? Who knows
Yeah.
what you can trust? Because things grow really fast on the coast, a lot faster than they do on the inland where I live. So who knows?
Yeah.
Look at this, eh?
Hmm.
Somebody spent a lot of time carving that square pillar in the middle there.
Right.
Someone did a really good job on that one. Whoever did,
They worked hard here, and by the time they got done, they died, so it
they
didn't get
died.
finished.
Yeah, they didn't hand down the knowledge to their ancestors, so they weren't able to sculpt quite so accurately.
See here, you can see the texture of what would
Yeah.
have been the
Uh,
stone or the brick that became like stone here too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny how it's so obvious, eh?
Hmm.
Once you're open to it, you just got to open the
Yeah.
door.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just have to look, you know. You
Yeah.
just have to look.
I love it. So what do you think? Should we wrap this up?
Sure. I think that's
Mm,
the last one anyway. So
cool.
it's a good
Wow.
stopping point.
Cool. Yeah, this has been an enjoyable conversation, and I want to do it again. So maybe we'll reconvene in a couple of months or whenever we're able to and available.
Yeah, I'd
Sounds
love
good.
that. It's great to have someone to talk to. I mean, I don't know anybody in real life that I can talk to about this stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd love to do it again.
And I want to encourage people that are watching this kind of stuff that resonate with this kind of stuff to get involved with that too. Whether you start your own channel or contact me, I'm pretty happy to throw anyone on my channel that has something that they want to share. I think it's all about getting the information out there. Or you want to, yeah, start your own YouTube channel and don't have to be good with tech. Look at my channel, right? I got
Oh, you
10,000
do
subs
good.
and I don't really know what I'm doing as far as videos go, right?
You do
So
good. You're my
yeah,
favorite. You're my
yeah,
favorite.
yeah, yeah. Stop, stop,
You
stop.
are. I love it. So good.
I'm just a guy with a Paint 3D and a program on my computer to screen record. So anyone can do this. And if everyone has a different angle, look at Ashley and I as when we get together like this, our perspectives. You can sort of build on each other's perspectives and come to new conclusions. So I appreciate you joining me, Ashley, and
Thank you.
look forward to the next time.
Awesome. Me too. It was fun.